happens when your mental state has an impact on your physical state? Well, that's something that researchers looked into for a new study linking loneliness to physical issues. Now, this is one study. They found an interesting correlation in a very small sample group, but I could say that loneliness does lead to some physical issues, especially according to the results of this study. So this was published in this is the wrong article, sorry, in the Proceedings of National Academy of Sciences. And what the team of researchers looked into was how elderly people rate themselves on kind of like a loneliness scale. How lonely are they? How isolated are they? And then they would look at the isolated elderly individuals and see whether or not their loneliness has had any type of impact on their physical state. They looked at their immune systems, they looked at their ability to fight certain illnesses, and here's what they found. In the 26% of elderly people who identified themselves as socially isolated, they discovered the genes responsible for inflammation were more active, while genes that help defend against viral infections were depressed. Okay? Now, it's 26%. It's not a huge number, but I still found that interesting. Consider the fact that young women with depression have double the risk of heart attack, and that people with schizophrenia have greatly elevated susceptibility to heart disease and cancer.
Yeah. So we're social animals, and it makes a big, big difference. That's part of why putting people in isolation when they're in prison is something the rest of the world considers to be a really deeply severe penalty. Here in the U.S., we do it all the time.
Right.
Okay? We'll send people into ISO for years at a time, right, with no issues whatsoever. So we're social animals, and if you're lonely, your body literally has a physiological reaction to that. It's amazing, but true.
It doesn't surprise me because think of stress, for instance. When you're feeling stressed, your body releases a hormone called cortisol. And cortisol is disastrous on your body. One thing that it does is it convinces you that you need to eat bad foods, right? It makes you crave bad foods.
That's happening to me. Okay.
Yes. So stress, we all know that. Stress has real physical ramifications on the human body. Why wouldn't loneliness have similar ramifications on the human body?
Right, and the ones that are described here.
Right.
So for me, right now, I love my alone time because I'm surrounded by people and responsibilities. But it's only because I'm an extrovert and I've taken on these responsibilities. There was one time that I was a little lonely. That was when I had moved to Miami about 17, 18 years ago, right? And at that point, I didn't know anybody. And here's what I did. Somebody get me a phone. So I picked up the phone. I called everybody I know. Hey, you know anybody in Miami? You know anybody in Miami?
Yeah.
And a friend of a friend, good enough. I'd be in the streets. I'd be like, hey, dude, what's up? You want to be a friend?
Yeah.
Okay.
No.
And within 2 weeks, I had too many friends, and I was like, okay, I'm capping it.
Okay.
You know why? We're social animals. I know I'm much more of an extrovert than normal,
yeah.
Right? But still, we need to socialize with one another.
Okay, so let me explain to you guys what my number one fear is. My number one fear is ending up alone. And I've come to realize that regardless of who you are, it is inevitable. You will end up alone. No. Hold on. No. I'm being real. I'm a realist, okay?
Okay, I don't believe so, but go ahead.
Over the last few years, I don't know what it is, but I've been, elderly people have, touched a soft spot in my heart. When I see elderly people in a home or when they're,
normally
immobile,
she didn't give a damn about elderly people, but lately.
Okay, let me explain to you exactly what happens.
No.
I get really emotional, insanely emotional. I remember one time I was walking home from a yoga class and I saw a group of elderly people who were immobile. They needed the help of the person who was running the daycare or whatever for them. And they were just kind of walking down the sidewalk. And they looked so sad and so lonely. And it was the worst thing. It just scared the hell out of me because I thought of my parents, I thought of my life, I thought of my friends, and how it happens to a lot of people. Okay, sorry to be a downer. But the reason why I say this is because if you're healthy, right? Go running every day, I eat healthy, I want to live a long life, 100 years maybe. You're going to outlive everyone, right? Your husband's going to die. Your family's going to die. You're going to be alone. And then here's what happens when you get married. You kind of lose contact with some people because now you're married and you have these responsibilities with your own family. And then, you lose those relationships. And before you know it, you're elderly, you're alone, no one wants to talk to you. Then you get depressed. And no, it's fucking disastrous.
You're so morbid. Okay. Now let me bring you further down before I lift you back up. Okay.
Okay. I don't want to live a long life.
Okay. No, you'd be lucky to live a long life. Just calm down.
want,
you know what's worse than living a long life? Living a short life.
I agree. I want to live the right kind of life.
Okay. So let me bring you down. So my parents were just telling me a story about someone I knew when we were growing up, and they didn't have kids, and now her husband's in a lot, like, is developing something akin to Alzheimer's, and she's having trouble meeting his needs, a lot of trouble. But her mom passed away. They're both now he's in his 90s, she's in her 80s, and she sold all her stuff. All her jewelry, everything.
I can't. You're going to make me cry.
Okay. And some scam artist called her and said, oh, they're going to scam you. Hurry up and give that money to me so I can protect it. They robbed her of all her money. Okay. And now she can't go into the nursing home that she wanted for her and her husband. And then my mom said, what can I do? I need to help. Like, I'm going to America. Can I get you something? I used to get you medicine and stuff. She said, the only thing I need is a friend. Okay.
I can't do the story right now. It's like really making me emotional.
Okay. Now, all right. So, yes, it happens, Andy. But being pessimistic is not the same thing as being realistic. Okay. So, for some people, that happens. But it doesn't have to happen to you. Now, if all along they had been talking, and I don't want to blame them, and I don't want to talk about her in that context. But I'm saying for you, you think you're really going to have no friends, right? Here's what I'm going to do if I'm old, and even if I'm immobile. I'm going to grab that phone.
Yeah.
And I'm going to be up in people's ears until they hang up on me, right? They're going to be like, Cenk, stop it already. I know. Donald Trump Jr. is driving you crazy, I know. But it doesn't have to end up that way. Everything we do is a choice. So before you get to 100, you're going to make 1,000 choices so that that determines what happens to you when you're at 100.
Yeah.